we're all joined into the round, we've done our first round just to get joined. I want to have a chat with you about a couple of things. Firstly, we've got a nice kind of neat situation here where both kind of sets of stitches fit neatly on those needles. There's nothing hanging off the end. When you knit your headband, this is going to be different because you've got a lot more stitches than this. The principle is exactly the same. All that will happen is these stitches will extend down onto the cable. That'll be perfectly fine. They'll be completely safe. As you know, once they're on the cable, they can't go anywhere. But don't worry that they don't all kind of fit nice and neatly across these needles. Nothing's going to change, nothing bad's going to happen. It will work in exactly the same way. It's just some of them will have to, because there's that many more of them, some of them are going to have to just sit further down onto the cable. That is really the kind of major difference for the headband. So I'm really only going to work the mittens on these videos because there's some kind of construction things that are a little bit not tricky, but they're just a little bit different to working round and round in loops. So speaking of that, the only thing that might be slightly different when you're working your headband is placing your stitch marker. Now Anna does say to place a stitch marker at the beginning of our round on our mittens, and that's entirely up to you whether you do that or not. When you're working your mittens, you're going to be working a thumb, so it's going to be very obvious which is the sort of start of the round and which is the end. But if it helps you to place a marker, I would suggest you place your marker not here, and what I've got here is one of my own markers. Yours that are coming are just spectacular. If I place my marker there, that denotes the beginning of the round absolutely accurately, but as soon as I move my hand, it falls off. So what I tend to do, if I need to mark the beginning of my round, I'm going to slip my first stitch and I'm going to pop the marker on there, and then I'm going to slip that stitch back on, and I'll show you what happens then. So when I, oops, get everything back to the beginning. When I move that about now, it's not going anywhere, and okay, I have one stitch the other side of it, but I know that is the beginning of my round. Okay, so it's nice and securely held in place. Less of a problem, like I said, with mittens, because it'll be fairly obvious when you're at the beginning of the round, because you're working a thumb piece, and we'll get onto that later. But when you're working your headband, not as obvious. So you still will have it sort of split over two needles, and you'll still know that where you've got your tail, where's my tail? That's that piece. Where the tail is coming out at this side, you'll know that's the beginning of the round. But if you feel that that's not enough, make sure you use your stitch marker, because it's a good indicator of when to kind of move up a row on your pattern. And again, don't worry about that. We'll look at moving up, reading charts in another video. Okay, so we've joined in the round, we've got our stitch marker placed for the beginning of the round, and what I'm going to do, although we just did a sort of a plain knit row to join, I'm going to actually get back to the pattern now and follow it as it should be followed, and that is to say I need to do 6 rounds of rib, knit 1, purl 1. The only slight difference is we're going to knit through the back loop. Let me show you how that works. So just as before, I'm ready to knit, so I'm going to pull out the back needle, the one with the yarns coming off it, and I am going to get ready to knit. Now normally, if I'm going to knit, I'm going to go in the front there like that, but knit through the back loop is just as the name suggests. The needle goes in through the back, and that is as difficult as that is. Okay, just literally putting it in the back where normally you'd put it in the front, and then go ahead and knit it in the same way. Okay, I'm going to take, just slip my stitch marker across. I'm probably going to lose that in a minute because I want to have your undivided attention. Don't want that stitch marker glaring at you. Right, so knit 1 through the back loop, purl 1. Let's do another through the back loop. Literally, instead of going in the front, thus, going in the back, thus. And you'll see what's happening is it's just it will put a little twist in that knit stitch very prettily indeed. So trust me on that, you'll see that come out. It's quite well hidden when you're working this because of the tweediness of the yarn. But once you've finished your rib, you will be able to see that nice twisted effect nice and clearly. So working these rounds, you will note that on your first needle that you work, so the first half of your round, if you like, you start and end with a knit stitch, a knit through the back loop stitch. On the second needle, you will start and end with a purl stitch. Now, that might seem a bit weird, but if you think about it, we're working flat now, but when I put my mitten on and it's in the round, thus, I like the word thus, don't I? Your knit purl pattern continues. Can you see it continues across that kind of edge? Knit purl, knit purl, knit purl all the way around. So you don't have kind of two knits or two purls. So you'll start and end your front needle on knit, and you'll start and end your back needle on purl. So no more complicated than that. Let's just remind ourselves again that we have to work 2 needles worth to have worked 1 round. So I would like you to go and work 6 rounds of rib, and we'll meet back because there's just a little bit of a twiddly thing on round 7 which we'll work together. Okay, I have finished my 6 rounds of rib, and you can see that's coming together quite nicely. We're now going to work round 7 of the mittens, which is a plain kind of knit round but with some increases in, and we also need to increase on the headband as well. So this little technique that I'm going to show you now works for both of them. So if you can follow this, even though there's less stitches for this, it'll still work in the same way for the headband. Okay, so round 7 on the mittens, we are asked to knit 11 stitches and then make 1 right, which is M1R, that's what that stands for. So I just want to show you that, just in case you're not clear. So taking my back needle out as before, and just going to start knitting, we've got kind of multiple repeats of this little pattern, which is knit 11. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, this is fun, isn't it? And 11. Now we're at the point where we want to make 1. So when we make 1, I'm bringing this really close to the camera, we're going to use the little bar, can you see that? The little bar that sits between the stitches that you've just worked on the right needle and the ones that are yet to be worked on the left. So I've just put my little needle tip under there so you can see what I'm talking about. That little bar there. So to make 1 right, and you can make 1 left as well, but we're just concerned with make 1 right for now. What I'm going to do is the tip that I'm tapping here, this left tip, I'm going to pass that tip under that bar that I showed you from back to front. Let me just do that again because I was not very central. So from back to front, I've put the tip under that little bar, and you can see, if I get really close again, and I'm using this needle to point, you can see we've kind of got a V here now. Okay, and this bit here is the bit I've just picked up. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is knit into that part that I've just picked up, just in a normal way as if it was a knit stitch that had sat there all along. So I'm just going to knit into that. Okay, and now I've made a stitch. There is a stitch there that wasn't there before, and it's a lovely way to kind of invisibly increase your stitches. I'm going to just do 1 more. So I'm working along, I've been asked to do this kind of 5 times, so that was number 1, and I'm going to work along another 11 stitches here, and then this will be the second repeat. I have, of course, lost count. So I've just found my little made stitch, which is this one here. I'm completely off camera. This one here is my made stitch. No, sorry, this one here is my made stitch. Can you see it? There, little made stitch there. So I'm counting 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Let's do another make 1 right. So do you remember we're using that little bar, that bar there? All right, so I'm going to place the tip of the needle underneath that bar to create that V on the top, and then I'm just going to knit into that as if it was a normal stitch. All right, So now I've increased 2 stitches in the round. So I've made that repeat twice. I'm going to go ahead and make the repeat 3 more times, but that will not use up all my stitches. At the end of doing that 5 times, I've got 3 stitches left over, so I'll just knit those. And then I should end up, all being well, with 63 stitches. So you're going to knit 11, do the make 1 5 times, and then knit the last 3. So that is what make 1 right looks like.